a look back on our previously aired wellness shows, and the first segment of our Big Dreamer series. All that and more coming up next on Joy in the City True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and the dysfunction in our culture. But today, we are coming from a different approach as we take a look at the good things that are going on here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. We want to thank our program sponsors, Park Home, for the donation of furniture used in our studio, Taylor Designs and Events for beautifully decorating our studio space, and our platinum sponsor, Harry's Construction, for their ongoing support of Joy in the City. As we start the new year, most people automatically think about their New Year's resolution to eat healthier and get in shape. Last January, we talked with a few people who gave us great information about different ways to just do that.
What would you say are the biggest things that people face when it comes to either exercising and or weight loss that are these struggles? Because we hear a lot of excuses. We hear a lot of people say a lot of things. What are some things that can help them and can help us kind of get more healthy in our lifestyle that we live?
I think one of the biggest things is when somebody makes the decision that they want to make a change, is they want to make too many changes too fast.
Okay.
So they jump right into the deep end of the pool without any sort of flotation device, without any sort of plan.
Yeah.
And whenever you do, even if you do have a plan, they don't plan for failure.
Yeah.
They don't plan for the speed bumps and getting thrown off the back of the train and having to, they instead of chasing after the train, they just give up.
Oh.
So you have to have a plan that's going to include, the failure and the mess ups. And trying to pick one thing to focus on and get really good at it. One of the big things I tell people is quit drinking soda.
Yeah.
Quit drinking soda, quit drinking sugary drinks, sweet teas, sweet coffee. Stop drinking those things and just focus on water. So if you can just do that and you can get that down, then you move on to the next thing.
What do you do, or what can you say to help get people motivated to get involved with fitness, or to get a personal trainer, or to get moving off the couch, or off, out from behind the desk? Jason and I talked about that, behind the desk. So what would you say?
If you want to fix your physical, mental, emotional well-being, it's easily one of the greatest things that you can start to do. You'll see your body change, you'll see your mind change, you'll see your health change, you'll see your every single thing. You'll see your skin start to change, you'll see your hair start to change. Yeah. It's some of the greatest things that I sit there and see people at the beginning of their transformation, they sit there in their picture and they don't smile. Yeah. And then 6 months later in their transformation, they have this glow in their smile. Once they're done, they're a completely different person. They're motivated. They love their self. It's so cool to see the beginning to the end, to in the middle, to days that they don't want to work out, but they get the workout in, and how they feel and how they smile in the mirror afterward.
The first time I did it, in 28 days, I lost, I think, 22 pounds, which...
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if that says about how great Whole30 was or how terribly I was eating before. That I had that much weight to lose in 28 days. But those are definitely the benefits I had. I did sleep better. I was clearer mentally. I felt better. I had some more energy at times throughout that month. Not consistently through the whole month, but definitely at times where I didn't need the coffee, or if I didn't need the stimulant to keep me going, I did actually have more energy, and I lost some weight. So.
Cool. Lindsay, how about you?
I think mine was kind of twofold. So I've done several Whole30s. So my first Whole30 experience, I too lost some weight. I definitely felt like I had more energy that was sustained throughout the day. I didn't feel like I was dragging by 2 p.m. and needed a second or third coffee. Yeah. So that was helpful. But I also noticed that my attitude about my day was better because I felt clearer and because I had more energy. It wasn't a drudgery to do certain things that before just sounded terrible. So definitely like a mental space and an emotional space, it was helpful. The weight loss was great, but I wasn't really going into it for that. Yeah. So those were like quick things that I noticed, but having done the Whole30 a couple of times, I noticed something that I didn't expect. So I came to Whole30 from kind of a healthier, quote unquote healthier side of things. I was marathon training, I was eating a quote unquote healthy diet, and I thought that I was in probably the best shape of my life. So I was like kind of surprised when I found out that Whole30 helped to stabilize what I didn't realize was an unstable blood sugar. So it was normal for me to have to eat every 2 hours, or I would have a nasty sugar crash and I would be hangry. My husband likes to remind me how mean I was. So those were normal, and I didn't realize until I had done Whole30 a couple of times, and sometimes for an extended period, that my body actually started to heal itself.
What is different about keto that has allowed you all to lose so much weight? What has been different than other diets you've experienced?
For me, it's been the fact that I don't have a whole lot of cravings, which I always had with other diets. They just seem to have disappeared for the most part. And my hunger level isn't very strong. Sometimes I even have to remind myself, oh, it's time to maybe eat a meal. So that's really diminished for me also.
First 3 weeks, I lost 25 pounds. And what's interesting about this too, and I hear people say about a lifestyle, and it is more of a lifestyle, but you feel a lot healthier. And that's the biggest difference. It's like the weight loss is the secondary aspect of it, where I just feel so much better, thinking clearly, less stress, sleeping better at night. Those are just some of the things that I've experienced.
The average American might need 150 carbs a day.
Oh, more.
Okay, but we're eating way over that. So what happens is it's stored as fat. So if we would cut down on the carbs, it burns. That's all I did then. I said, okay, I'm going to stay at 10 carbs. That way it's not coming into my body. They got to figure out something else to burn. Okay, and that's what and if you're not craving anything, it doesn't feel like a diet. When you can look in the mirror and see your stomach shrinking, I wish I could have filmed it, okay, because it was just that crazy to me, saying, how can this be every Sunday? I look in the mirror and see that, man, your stomach's getting smaller, and you can actually see it. That was crazy to me.
If you know a person or organization impacting our city, we want to hear about it. You can contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@jointhecity.org.
Today's Platinum sponsor is Harry's Construction, whose motto is, if you can dream it, we can create it. Recently opening Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center so you, the consumer, can see examples of the variety of services provided by the team at Harry's Construction. Regardless of the project size, Harry's team approaches each project as if it is his own home. Be sure to visit Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center at 114 Main Street in Bellwood. You can also visit their website to see pictures of home improvement projects over the years. Thanks again to Harry Halk and the team for supporting Joy in the City.
For the month of January, our series theme will be highlighting several people who are big dreamers. Today, we will hear from Lavonne Falbo of Lavintage Decor as she shares her story.
So Lavonne, tell me, as we begin our discussion today, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I have always lived in this area. I grew up in Hollidaysburg, and my parents are both deceased, and I have a husband and 2 children and 2 stepchildren and 2 grandchildren.
Talk to me a little bit about what you do. It's a very unique skill. Well, not necessarily a unique skill, but it's a unique design effort of what you do. Talk a little bit about how that came about.
Well, that came about as a hobby. I always enjoyed doing DIY projects at home. Was always really crafty in that way. And then I had been working in the corporate world, and when I lost my job, of course I had a little bit of time to kind of reel it in and see what I wanted to do. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something on my own. And, the kids were all encouraging, and they're saying, you do great design. So that's just kind of how I just decided I was a designer and, and began my career. And that's what I did. I just kind of set it up as, my neighbor called it biblical, but I gave away a $1,000 room makeover. And that's how I announced the beginning of my business.
Okay, so if someone were to ask, what is your business? How do you describe it?
I always say that I am an interior designer who specializes in repurposing and painting. So in other words, if it can be painted, it usually gets painted. I try to be very budget friendly. So it mainly comes out of, it's always about good design, but it mainly comes out of recycling type of idea, repurposing. So it's just a shame to throw perfectly good things away. So sometimes people just don't realize how they can reuse something or use it for a different purpose.
And where do you come up with these ideas?
I don't know. I have always been a great consumer of magazines and design programs. I just love that kind of stuff. And I always had a memory for unusual things like cloud names or column names and things like that. Not important stuff like math, but the things like that always stuck in my head. So I just always remembered those terms, and it was just kind of like something that came really easily to me, is fabrics and just things like that.
So for someone who is a dreamer and they're thinking about creating an idea, taking something, one of the things that we wanted to really highlight was the kind of the journey that you have walked through to accomplish a dream like this, because it's a unique endeavor. And just wonder, how did this come about? When you prayed about it, when you thought about it, how did the idea to have a business, to do what was a hobby, how did you take that to the level of being a business?
I think that starts very early in my life, because I do remember in first grade being asked what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I said I wanted to have a boutique. And that looked different to me then, because I pictured rows of clothes that I made myself, and there were, clouds, and they were all children's clothes, but that's not what I do. As a matter of fact, I really don't have any desire to sell clothes. But I also have to trace it back to my parents. They were both encouragers. My mother was a quilter and a sewer. She was kind of a perfectionist. And when I would do things my way, she would just kind of look at it and say, yeah, you do things your way. And my father always taught me the name of his tools, and he didn't think because I was a girl that I shouldn't know this. And when he was stymied, when he was doing a project, if he asked me my opinion, and if I had a good idea and he considered it or used it, that was my greatest joy. So I think that parents who were very encouraging, that helped. But of course, I was in a very stressful job, and when the time came that was over, I just knew that was going to be the next chapter. And my husband was very encouraging too. He said, now it's time for you to do something for you. So he's been really encouraging.
You've gone from a hobby to a business.
Yeah.
And I know that you're on Around the Alleghenies. You have a show that you're on, a web show that you're on as well. Talk a little bit about how that whole journey came about and what it's been like in those different venues.
Well, I early on kind of developed this love of doing videos. As social media grew, it was also important that video was, king. That was really what captured people's attention in this quick moving world. So I got really comfortable doing things behind the camera. So I guess I love to do demos, and that just became a natural thing because one of the things that I sell is a line of paints. So that really became my form of artistry, is painting on furniture. That's kind of my canvas. So that's what I really like to express myself doing in videos. So sometimes it's quick projects and other times it's a more involved series of events, but I do enjoy kind of producing the videos as well and just pretty comfortable with it.
Well, with by the nature of do-it-yourself projects, how-to videos kind of go hand in hand with that kind of stuff. And being what you do, it's very much a lot of the stuff you can do at home with the stuff that you have in your home.
Yeah.
So how-to videos seem to be ideal for that situation.
Right. So, there's so many facets to my business, the retail store only being one of them. Sure. Really, the design part of it is the main focus of the business, and then the retail store came about, and then because of the paint line, then we also do the classes. I teach furniture painting, and then we also, as my love of junk is evident too, have repurposed a lot of things that are very popular bridal rental decor. So that's part of my business as well.
Very, very, very big right now. That kind of stuff is definitely. So someone who is a dreamer, we talked a bit about your process and your dream journey a little bit. What's some advice that you would have for someone who is wanting to take a little hobby and make it more significant, even into a business? Give me some points of advice that you'd have for them.
I think that having an open mind is the biggest thing that you can do to start a business. I've even considered doing some coaching on this very thing, as to start a business on a shoestring, because you have to think outside the box if you don't have a whole lot of cash to get started with. So bartering services is really huge, I think. Even in my business, like the people who work in my store, they're vendors, they work in exchange for space and, that kind of thing. So I'm able to get support and help in that way. Also, we do photo shoots. So it's collaborative advertising, get a lot of businesses involved, and they put things together, and then we all get the benefit of professional photography and making our products look good. So I'd say think collaboration and just think outside the box, because you just have to be a problem solver. You have to think, how can I make this work? Even if I don't have a pile of cash. So
Indeed. And people many times when they're on their dream journey, getting the initial desire might come easily, but in the midst of it, there are often challenges. How have you overcome some challenges that the passion might have driven you to get there, but how in the midst of it, how do you overcome some challenges in this journey?
One of my favorite expressions is, I didn't come this far just to come this far. So yes, you're going to have setbacks. People often disappoint you. You expect or count on them to do something, and they tell you they can't for whatever reason. It might be a good reason or it might be a silly reason, but for whatever reason, I think when things like that happen, you just have to stop, regroup, and just decide, how else am I going to make this happen? Who else can help me? How can I accomplish this? It's because no one cares about your success or your joy as much as you do.
Sure.
So it has to come from within.
That's good. Good stuff. Is there anything you want to say about how do people get to your shop, get to see you online? How do people get in contact with what you're doing?
Well, there are multiple, a variety of ways now that you can get in contact. So I love that YouTube is social media because people comment. So anybody that needs anything there, I do tutorials on YouTube, and the name of my channel is Lavintage Decor. And also on Facebook, we're Lavintage Decor Altoona, and on Instagram, we're Lavintage Decor. I have Twitter, I have everything's Lavintage Decor. Okay. Facebook's the only exception. Good. And we're at 1410 11th Avenue in downtown Altoona. You just have to look for the big red trucks. Yep.
Very cool. Well, thank you again for taking some time. And we hope our viewers can be inspired by your story, as well as maybe even connect with you on things that they could utilize from your skill sets. Because I think it's very unique, it's very modern, it's very trendy, but yet it's often do-it-yourself as well. So I think it's very cool what you do. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate this.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
Good.
Hi, I'm Lavonne Falbo. I have a business called Lavintage Decor. I'm a furniture painter and I'm a retailer for Dixie Belle Paint Company. I have a retail store where we have rustic, bridal, and event rentals, and we teach people how to paint furniture and lots of other projects. We definitely have a lot of fun there. And I'm here to tell you about my YouTube channel. We have 3 different shows. First of all, we have Tuesday Talk, which is a live show. As the name would suggest, it's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do lots of crafting on that show. And then we also have Step by Step, which is an edited video every Saturday at 4. And we take furniture painting step by step. And lastly, a new show this year is You Learn Something New every day at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those are knowledge nuggets that I hope to share with you. So please subscribe.
As we close out today's show, here are a few thoughts from Troy Ferguson.
It's time to finish what we've started. Today's motivational thought addresses those of us who are dreamers, entrepreneurs, maybe starters. And let me get to why I say this. See, many people who of that mentality are great at starting ideas, great at starting projects. If you're a dreamer, you come up with all kind of ideas of how to do something different, how to do something better. If you're an entrepreneur, you create businesses that will increase the income or increase something in your life or your family, or provide a special solution in our economy, in our community. But the problem is many people who are of that mentality are great at starting, were horrendous at completing. Now you may say, well, Troy, I've done this and I've done it. For the most part, too often we have an idea, we have a thought, we have a process that we start, and then if it is challenging, or if it's a struggle to keep it moving or see it to come to fruition, we can stop what we're doing. We can maybe the drive, the attention to detail has diminished, and we no longer work on that project, that dream, that desire, whatever it might be. Today I want to tell you that let's start looking at what can we finish. What can we finish that we've started? And what I mean by that is not just big dreams, not just big destination type of situations, but what is it that we can have as a goal for maybe this week, and we accomplish that on the journey to a larger project, on the journey to a bigger dream, whatever it might be. In the Bible, it tells us in Philippians 1, beginning verse 6, be confident of this very thing, that he who has began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. We've heard this scripture many, many times. People quote this, he who began a good thing in you, a good work in you, will be faithful to complete it. But let me say something about that. The concept with this is he who begins something in you will be faithful to complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. Sometimes we just sit back and say, okay, he's working on something, he's doing something, I'm just going to sit back and let it happen. That's not necessarily what this means. When God creates something in you, he will be faithful to complete it, but you and I have a part to play in that journey. Now, when it comes to wholeness and perfection, that doesn't occur, we know biblically, until the return of Christ. But fullness and happiness and joy is something that we can attain along the journey. In the same manner, let me just say that I want to take the scripture and utilize it to say that he who began a good work through you will be faithful to complete it through you. Sometimes God puts something on our heart to do. Like I said, it's a dream, it's a business, it's a concept. It might even be just something small that will be this week. But in doing that, God will give you the tools, God will give you the resources to complete it. And it may not be as grandeur as what maybe you envisioned or dreamed, but there are times in our life that we have to say, okay, this is the project, this is the goal, and along that process, I'm going to have 4 or 5 goals to set up as smaller segments to accomplish the larger goal, whatever it is. Maybe you're writing a book. God's put on your heart to write a book. So you start with an outline, you start with a concept, you start with an outline. The next, and that's a goal. Once you finish that, maybe then you start doing something like you write a chapter. No time in history, for the most part, do people just sit down and write an entire book. There's usually processes along the way. You can apply this to writing a song. You can apply this to something that I do with editing a video. There's processes, and each of them have different goals, different parts, different segments that need to be completed. If you look at a big dream, a big idea, and say, it's just too much for me to handle, I cannot accomplish this. The problem is we're looking too far down the road without the minor segments that we can accomplish in the process. So let me encourage you, find along the journey, find smaller goals, smaller segments, and as the Bible says, he who has created something in you or through you, he will be faithful to complete it in you or through you. Let me challenge you with that today. Find something to complete this week. Now have a blessed day.
If you have a personal story or testimony you'd be willing to share with our community, we would love to talk with you about it. Please contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@jointhecity.org. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Join the City True Stories. Let me encourage you to watch other episodes of people and organizations having an impact on our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.